become apparent to you, if you've been subscribed to this channel from the very start, then you will know that recently I've taken up a conversation on the topic of squatters. You know, those people who just move into people's homes when nobody is there, or maybe when they're out of town, or maybe when they haven't actually moved in yet. They take advantage of these very, very liberal laws to obviously take advantage of the property itself. However, when I came across this story here, which by the way is actually a couple of weeks old, which is also an extension of a story that's actually 2 or 3 months old, I couldn't help but talk about this. And of course, the thumbnail, it is actually true. This is actually LeBron James's new neighborhood because he's building a home in this neighborhood. I couldn't resist but talk about this. However, there is something that needs to be said right off the bat that I'm definitely going to be highlighting more so towards the end of the video, and that is this right here. This type of issue will probably not get fixed until people actually go and take Thanos-sized craps on the actual elite itself. I just find it funny that now it is that the elites, they push these policies, they virtue signal for these policies, they went out of their way to donate to politicians who wanted these policies, and now they're getting what it is that they vote for. But let's go ahead and get to the story, and let me go ahead and explain why this is actually a very happy story, because it's always happy to see people, well, I said it's always happy to see, but in reality, it always warms my soul to see people get what it is that they push for.
Neighborhood squatters have turned a mansion into a party house. Police have tried and failed to shut down that party mansion since it started in October, but the hosts claim they are valid tenants.
The neighborhood is home to several high-profile celebrities. KTLA's Mary Beth McDade joins us live from the Beverly Crest neighborhood with more. MB.
Yes, and Mike and Cher, some Beverly Crest residents tell us that they are being kept up at all hours of the night and fearing for their safety now that some squatters have moved into a vacant mansion and are throwing all-night ragers with hundreds in attendance.
I'm pretty sure you already know what's coming next. And of course, you'd be correct. A bunch of squatters, they went to a person's property in an extremely wealthy neighborhood, a neighborhood that is, by the way, you're going to see here in a second, is occupied by celebrities. And they decided to go out there on one piece of property and throw a party and have a bunch of people over and wreck this person's place all to hell. If that rather is what you're thinking, then yes, that's true. That's exactly what happened in this case. However, I did say at the beginning of this video that this story, while roughly 2 weeks old, is actually the extension of another story that goes back a few months. Now, really quick. It was roughly a couple of weeks ago when I got around to the story in New York City where the woman was getting a home. The family was getting a place in Queens, New York for their son who was mentally handicapped so that way he could stay closer to family. And of course, we covered that squatter situation. We also covered the situation that occurred sometime right after that where a lady basically got arrested for trying to get the squatters out of her home. And of course, we talked about the possibility of vigilantes and people showing up and removing squatters by a way that, of course, might get them in trouble with the law. We've talked about this on several occasions, but like I said before, this right here is an extension to a previous story a while back. And it actually gets much, much deeper because, well, this is also a failure of law enforcement for a multitude of reasons, but we'll get to that here in a second. But let's go back in time to when this story first broke.
This afternoon at a multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Crest, the same mansion that neighbors say has been taken over by squatters. Residents say the home has been turned into a party house with loud music at all hours and trash everywhere.
Today, there were reports of a hot prowl at the mansion, and the suspected squatters were briefly handcuffed and detained by police. But the saga is far from over. KTLA's Chris Wolf joins us live from Beverly Crest with details. Chris.
That's right. Good evening, Cher and Micah. We first brought viewers this story 2 days ago. Well, today, neighbors and real estate agents and others were very excited because they thought that police were finally removing the squatters from this mansion. That was not the case.
I'm sorry, but this right here, well, actually, I'm not sorry. This story really does warm my soul. Because you see, now the elites are seeing that, you see, before I go any further, I need to say this. When defund the police started back in 2020, and you could argue it started long before that. You can argue that it really started back to the whole Trayvon Martin situation, even though the police were not exactly, how do I say, involved in that situation. That was a situation that I'll probably be covering at a later date when we go back in time and we start looking at stories that the media helped shape. They help shape the thinking of the public at the time. Don't worry, those videos will probably be an extension of other videos that I'm doing because, of course, like I've said before, this is kind of a work in progress. And, of course, the channel is going to continue to evolve. Like, for example, there's going to be 2 videos coming out tomorrow, one on Tuesday, the more longer video. And then, of course, the process will repeat every other day. And I'll try to take a day off, probably Saturday. Or I may post videos on those days, too. But still, at the same time, getting back on topic to what I was saying. You see, when the whole defund the police thing started, my thinking was, and of course this was the thing that was being said all over the mainstream media, and it would later on turn out to be absolutely true, is that the elites, the wealthy, they figured that they could obviously hire private security, pay for private security. But of course, when you actually get to the nitty-gritty of the situation, you find out that the elites don't like spending their own cash. I mean, those who have money typically tend not to spend their money. It's just common sense. I know people love to think that those who flaunt their money have obviously got money, but that right there is just an extremely bad spending habit. We'll cover that in the video too. The point is this right here. The elites thought that they could, of course, get private security. They thought that not only could they get private security, but they thought that they could get armed guards, people to actually protect their property. They thought that also not only could they protect their own property, but they also felt that the cops would in fact do what it is that they want them to do, seeing how it is that they are the biggest taxpayers. Now, I'm not saying that to compliment the elites. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, everybody wants to make money, have some cash, of course, that type of stuff there. As I've said before in a previous video, those who tend to say that money is not everything are those people who actually have money, or those who think that money is not the most important thing are those who actually have money, or typically tend to already have it. Those who don't have money obviously are striving to get money so that way they can have a much, much easier life. Like I said, I'm not the person who's the most in love with cash or money, but still at the same time, I understand that money is obviously a necessity. So these people probably thought that, okay, seeing how it is that our tax rate is much, much higher and we pay more overall taxes per year, we figured that the cops would give us some form of special treatment. These people are obviously finding out that that right there is obviously not the case. And of course, over this next segment, it even gets wilder, especially given the fact that one of the chief arbiters of defund the police, one of the chief pushers of these very, very left-wing policies, come to find out that his place may be the next one to get hit.
Air and on the ground, an army of LAPD officers swarmed a mansion overlooking Beverly Hills following some type of emergency call. Someone reported several suspects entering the property with a knife. KTLA 5 News was first and only on scene during the commotion.
Are you one of the squatters? Are you one of the squatters in the house?
Absolutely not. No. I don't know anyone here. I don't know anything. Please leave me alone.
At one point, our camera captured several people, including a shirtless man detained in handcuffs facing a wall. This is the same location KTLA told you about earlier, where neighbors in the exclusive community say squatters have taken over the property located along Beverly Grove Place in Beverly Crest. NBA superstar LeBron James is building a home just 2 doors down. But others who live here tell us their existence has become a living hell.
As a guy who lives in a college town, I can personally attest to the parties that get thrown, especially given the fact that obviously I was a guy who went to university at a much, much older age, who, by the way, still got challenged to see if he could actually hang with the young bucks. You'd be surprised exactly how well I did against these people, especially given the fact that anytime a beer drinking contest would come up, this is back in my actual drinking days, I always still found a way to win because I actually understood how to win these things. Now, I'm not saying I do this crap anymore. Obviously, I've given up alcohol for the most part, outside the occasional beer here and there. But obviously, as somebody who understands these college parties, I understand exactly how far out of hand these things can get. Can you imagine a bunch of drunk white girls, whatever? And I say drunk white girls because drunk white girls, and I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but I'm saying this because if you're probably a guy between the age of, I don't know, maybe 18 and 35, or maybe even 18 to 40, you're probably going to bust out laughing, especially if you stayed in a fraternity, or if you were like myself, you spent time in the military and you actually did some actual partying, you would know exactly how hilarious these people can get. Can you guys imagine the amount of destruction that was caused at these properties? And by the way, you already know that the Walk of Shame is pretty daggone rampant with this right here. There's also something else too that needs to be said. Seeing how it is that these properties have got such wide, let's just say, seeing how these properties are so large, seeing how it is that they're so expensive, wouldn't you think the people who own these places have these places stocked full of food? I mean, imagine the destruction that's done to these places, the costs of all the things that can be done to these places. And by the way, these elites can't really do anything about it, as you guys will see here in a second, because obviously when you hire an attorney, you got to keep your mouth closed about a few things. There's also this one guy who calls himself Mr. Gucci we'll get to here in a second. And then we'll obviously get back to the story I showed you at the very, very beginning, because it obviously ties in with this one here. Apparently, there's this doctor who's apparently committed Medicare fraud or something like that, who actually put his house up for sale, and he's on the run. Now, something else that needs to be said before I go any further, because I actually find this right to be even funnier than the story itself. The thing about squatters is that squatters oftentimes have this tendency to get a little bit cocky, especially if they know the law is on their side. And the fact that they're doing this in a much, much wealthier neighborhood, especially in Southern California, is what really makes me laugh at this. But the Fox News had released an article on this. And apparently one of the squatters, apparently during the partying, he got outside, went up to the neighbors and said, "Hello, I'm your new neighbor." And one of the neighbors got mad and said, "F off, go away. You're not my effing new neighbor." I mean, you guys kind of voted for these policies. You voted to allow this type of crap to go on. I mean, I think you should get used to the fact that you have brand new neighbors. I'm just throwing it out there that you people did, in fact, vote for these policies. The vast majority of them did vote Democrat. They did vote Democrat on the local level. And now they're screaming, they're raising 15 counts of hell, that the cops won't exactly help them out. Which, by the way, they did call for them to be defunded. They may not have meant it, but still at the same time, though, they still went along with the crowd. So this right here is actually a case of getting what it is that you really and truly did vote for. It just so happens to be it's the more elite edition of that. Best way to red pill somebody on the left, best way to red pill a liberal, best way to red pill somebody in a suburban area, give them what the hell it is that they vote for. But of course, there is an end to this. And of course, we got to get back to the other story because like I said before, it does tie in all together.
Thought their troubles were finally over with the heavy and heavily armed police presence Friday, but the people detained were eventually released. We caught up with one man at the front gate who says he is Mr. Gucci.
What do you want to know?
Well, you own the house? I mean, what's the story?
I've been away for a while, but now that I'm back, there'll be no more parties.
There'll be no more parties?
No more parties, guys. My lawyer told me not to comment. I apologize, but I wish that you guys would just leave these people alone.
The mortgage lender for the property does not want to be identified. He is infuriated, condemning the criminal justice system.
Yeah, you know, we were handling it, but now it got a little tough. We don't want to deal with it. So again, if somebody moves in your house while you're gone and changes the locks, this is our city. We need change.
According to reports, a doctor who owned this property fled the country years ago to avoid criminal prosecution. Judges then appointed a real estate listing agent to sell it, asking price $4.6 million. But the people who are staying here now claim they found a legitimate dream deal to rent the property for a year for only $35,000. The battle in Beverly Crest continues. Reporting live, Chris Wolf, KTLA 5.
Now, before I address the very, very end, which of course is exactly what's about to come up here in a second, I want to say this about the guy who was sitting there, you know, banging his fist together saying that we're demanding change. Dude, you should have thought about this crap, or you should have actually read the law, or you should have actually read what the hell was being proposed in these city council meetings before you decide to vote for it or donate to it. As a matter of fact, a lot of the campaign contributions that went to the politicians who were running this area of Los Angeles, or actually running Los Angeles as a whole, came from these same suburbanites, these same multimillionaires. By the way, I hate to say this one more time, the cost of living in California and New York both is absolutely horrendous. As a matter of fact, the cost of living in any blue state is absolutely horrendous. Okay, there's even some cost the cost of living in some red areas are pretty high as well, especially given that Florida's got this issue with a bunch of Californians moving over there. That actually, that'll probably be a different video at a later date. But still, the point is this right here. These people did, in fact, vote for it. Now, I want to say one more thing before I get to the first thing I was showing you guys earlier, because like I said, it does tie up together. The thing that really makes me laugh is not so much the guy who calls himself Mr. Gucci, but it's the guy who was commenting earlier saying that the squatters and those who partied at his residence were ultimately released. I want you to think for a second, okay? I want you just to sit back and just think for 2 seconds, all right? Let's say that somebody assaults you, a friend of yours, or they do something like what happened here, completely wrecks your stuff. The cops arrest or they detain. Now, really quick, I need to go ahead and say this out there because obviously somebody's going to want to, poke holes in what I got to say. But I want to say this right quick. Detaining somebody and arresting somebody are two different things. Basically, what you detain somebody is basically what happens at the cops. They put you in a very compromising position. They check you, they search you, whatever. Of course, they're going to ask about the business. They're going to do it anyways, if you don't consent to it. Of course, this is one of the ways you could get arrested for resisting arrest. When they detain you, what they're doing is they're not going to actually arrest you right then. They're holding on to you for the possibility of arrest. An actual arrest is when they actually put the cuffs on you, keep the cuffs on you. They put the cuffs on you during entertainment too, but they keep the cuffs on you. They carry you down the station, the booking, and the whole 9 yards. Think for a second. You want somebody arrested, somebody who wronged you, destroyed your property or something like that. Think just for 2 seconds. They get arrested, they get detained, and then all of a sudden they're let go. I wonder how the hell these people feel knowing that it is that all the money that they paid or put into these properties just got invaded by the policies that these people voted for. I say invaded by the policies that these people voted for because obviously most sane, rational people, most sane, good people would not actually believe that good people would actually do this. And by do this, I mean move on to somebody else's property that they know does not belong to them and start partying and start tearing up the property. This is kind of the problem with libs. They have this extremely wild, open worldview where they believe that everybody is just inherently good when that's obviously not the case. I mean, obviously, these people have got some behavioral issues, but like I said before, once again, it's getting what it is that you vote for. But of course, I'll tell you what the end result is once we get to the other side of the story, which we're going to go ahead and do now.
Loud parties, blaring music, and people coming and going at all hours of the night.
3:30 in the morning.
Blocking the small, narrow streets up in this Beverly Crest neighborhood.
A lot of shouting and laughing and drunkenness.
Neighbors say some squatters moved into this mansion located on Beverly Grove Place in October and have now been wreaking havoc on their community ever since.
They have parties that have gone from 2 in the morning till 9 the next day.
The guy who's talking about all the people parking their cars up there, the neighborhood being full of cars, this right here is obviously what I was saying before. This right here goes back to the first news clip. Now, guys, this clip right here and the first news clip I showed you, this was from 2 weeks ago, where I was showing about Bronze neighborhood. That happened roughly 6 weeks ago. But still, the thing is this right here. These people are obviously getting a taste of what, as I said earlier, people that actually voted for this type of stuff. However, when you get to the end of this, right, when we talk about the doctor who actually committed fraud here and decided to put his place up for sale, and of course, this guy right here has fled the country. Obviously, he's not going to care what the hell happens to his property. Actually, he probably will once he sees the property go down, but still, he's probably so scared and whatnot, he wants to just go ahead and get the hell out of here because obviously, the guy committed fraud. Now, we'll get to him in a second, but the thing is this right here. These people are actually starting to deal with things that, quite frankly, they thought that they wouldn't have to pay for. But of course, to go on top of this, the truth is it's kind of sad in a way. Now, I want you to think about this because there's actually two very, very sad things about this story, even though it's also funny at the same time. Number one, if you work your ass off to get a home to live in a nice suburban area. Now, me personally, I'm not a suburban guy. I'm a guy who would prefer to live out in the country somewhere, at least 10 or 15 miles outside the nearest town, or maybe a few miles over somewhere like that. That's what my ultimate goal was, to go buy my own property, own piece of land, whatnot. Kind of like what Rambo did in Rambo Last Blood, where he had a tunnel system. Yeah, I'm crazy like that. But the point is this right here. These suburban areas are supposed to be extremely nice homes. They're supposed to be extremely well put together, very, very nice on the inside, very, very well done. Even good old-fashioned nature is not supposed to be a problem. By nature, I mean like snakes and lizards, whatnot. And of course, Southern California, God knows what the hell you could be dealing with. But the mere fact that people are able to actually get onto said property inside of a gated community, which is supposed to be protected by these people because obviously their tax dollars are not working out for them too good, like I said they wouldn't, it makes you wonder exactly how safe and secure the suburbs are, which tells me that obviously if squatters is an issue now, I wonder what the hell the next problem is going to be. Is it going to be burglaries? Is it going to be assaults? Is it going to be people driving through? I mean, is it going to turn to the actual hood? Are there going to be drive-bys? I mean, what the hell is going to happen next? I mean, this case of this guy right here, and of course, I'm going to let this clip right here run a little bit longer, somebody committing some form of Medicare fraud, doesn't seem like a whole lot at first, but when you actually get down to it, it makes you automatically think to yourself that obviously the suburbs are not exactly as safe and secure as people think that they are. Which is also very, very weird, too, because it was the suburban class, by the time the Patriot Act got signed, that were demanding the Patriot Act get signed the most. They wanted security. They sacrificed their own freedom for security. In an actual commonsensical land, if somebody tries to steal your property or if somebody actually comes onto your property and stays on the property, number one, the person who's trying to stay on your property and it's not theirs would not have any rights at all. And you, the homeowner, could deal with them however you want. YouTube, I'm not advocating, I'm not trying to get a TOS violation there. I'm just simply saying that in a sane society, which we once were at one point in time, for the most part, you would be allowed to actually defend your home, defend your property. But of course, in states like, say, California, states like New York, states like New Jersey, very, very blue areas, you're not even allowed to do that there. If a burglar comes into your home, you've actually got to retreat from your home before you can do anything. Which at that point in time, you can't do nothing at all except just call the police. And all your stuff has been robbed. And of course, because these people voted to defund the police departments, now you don't have enough manpower to go and go get your stuff back. But of course, these people are rich, they're wealthy, they can obviously buy it back again. But still, though, this guy right here that committed Medicare fraud and allowed this property to basically get camped on, to me, I think just speaks to the entire problem that we're facing as a nation.
Broker on the property.
I was selling this house and I came up here when the pool man called me and he said, people are moving in. Do you still need me?
Woodward says he came up to the property to find that the locks and gate code had been changed and people illegally living in the home. He says he called the cops, who arrived and spoke to the people inside.
They came up with a fake lease and said that they've leased the property. I said, no, you didn't. I'm the broker. And ever since then, they have lived in the property and the court won't cut off the utilities because they say squatters have rights.
Woodward tells us the original owner was a doctor who defrauded Medicare out of millions of dollars and then fled the country. The mansion was placed in criminal court and ordered to be sold so the profits could help pay back Medicare. The court then hired Woodward to sell the property.
I'm just waiting for the court to make a decision or somebody to evict the tenants.
The broker is supposed to sell the home so that way the profits from the home being sold can then go back to Medicare, which can then go to help take care of those who need Medicare. You know, people who are elderly, people who are sick, people who are dying, people who may have a medical condition, people who, quite frankly, got to go get medications, stuff like that there. Basically, these people, these sorry scumbags, the ones who showed up to this guy's property and just started partying, are holding up the process for more people to actually get health care. Which I find very odd, especially given the fact that every election cycle, the Democratic Party and the left, they always run on health care. Health care for all, universal health care, free health care, which is just taxpayer health care. But still, at the same time, though, I just find it odd. Now, I mentioned before that there were two problems with this, okay? And obviously what I just said was not number two. Because number two, I think, is the real problem of this entire situation. You see, a lot of times, and of course, like I just said, the healthcare issue is definitely a problem. But the thing is this, or the defrauding of healthcare, and of course, the fact that these people are holding on to this property, keeping it from anybody to be able to actually sell the property to get the funds back to the people who, quite frankly, need the healthcare. But here's the thing that you got to understand. This type of situation, to me, screams that it won't get fixed unless people with actual money decide to get involved. You see, I am a guy who's not making that much money, but if I buy a home, if I buy a piece of property and somebody chooses to squat on it, let's say I'm in a blue state, I'm not going to be able to get that property to me even after I pay for it if somebody just starts sitting out there. Of course, I got my ways of actually removing said problem, but still at the same time, though, if I got to go through the court system and all that stuff, it's going to cost me a lot of money. And of course, to go on top of that, not only is it going to cost me a lot of money, but this person's going to run the utilities up and crap like this guy right here is dealing with too. By the way, that money, too, would probably also be handed over to go into the Medicare system as well, so that way people can get to it, especially in the state of California where the cost of living is already through the roof, but still at the same time, people are paying into it. The reason why I say that there's another problem here is because it's now finally hit home, meaning it's finally hit the wealthier population. You see, the wealthier population, they're the donors. They're the people who actually control everything as far as politicians are concerned. Now, me personally, I don't think their power is as great as people think, but obviously they're the ones who give the money to get these people elected. And obviously the people that they went out of their way to get elected obviously screwed them over inadvertently, or maybe they screwed them over intentionally. Who the hell knows? But still, the point is this right here. This entire issue will not get fixed unless people like this right here of the elite status, of the elite style, get involved. When they get involved, then the issue will probably get curtailed because they've actually got the money and the power and influence. It's sad because you obviously think about life as a situation where it is that you're obviously going to fail, you're obviously going to get hit in the face, you're obviously going to be put on your knees from time to time, you're obviously going to eat humble pie. But still, at the same time, there are situations where something can cause so much damage, or the damage is at a point in time where you can't really recover, but you have to get hit in the face, or you have to lose one side of your body before you finally realize that you screwed up. This right here seems to me like a situation like maybe it is. But still, it is still kind of fun to make fun of these people who, quite frankly, donated money to these politicians who advocated for squatters and still advocate for squatters to show up to their land, take a dump on it, destroy their property, and all that good stuff. But at the same time, though, it's also extremely sad seeing how it is that this guy, who quite frankly is being forced to hold on to a piece of property or sell a piece of property that belonged to another criminal, he's got to sit back and he's got to wait and go through the process till these squatters are removed for anything to get done. So that way, people who quite frankly just got defrauded in Medicare can get their money back. You see, when somebody actually commits some form of Medicare fraud, you're actually defrauding the entire system. There's a lot of people in that system who rely on some form of health care who've actually got to go to the government to get some form of assistance. It's just the way that it is. Obviously, it's a sad situation, but still, like I said before, you get what it is that you vote for. With that right there being said, guys, tell me what you think in the comment section. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share the video. Please sign off in the comment section. Also, this will probably be the first of 2 videos that will be getting released on Monday. I may throw a third one out there. I'm not sure, but still make sure you guys stick around anyways. With that being said, same thing. Like, subscribe, share. Please leave a comment. I'll see you guys later.